The Center for Educational Media and the College of Education at Middle Tennessee State University are proud to offer professional development to K-12 educators in Tennessee through our online video library. These videos are aligned with standards set by the Tennessee Department of Education. For more professional development videos, check out our website at cem.mtsu.edu.
Every Student, Every Day, District Collaboration for English Learner Success. Dr. Larissa Westerfield from Rutherford County Schools and Ms. Megan Turnbow from Rutherford County Schools, ESL Coordinator. They have been nominated. As you know, our presenters are all nominated by people, so we welcome them, and the topic they're presenting on has also been requested by you. So Dr. Westerfield and Megan Turnbow, come on up. Take the floor.
Hi, I'm Larissa Westerfield. So excited to be here today. I'm the coordinator of teaching and learning. I always have to look at what my title is. I work with pre-K through 12. This is Megan Turnbow. She is our ESL coordinator. Before we start though, because just the nature of our discussion today is collaboration. And here's the deal. Anything we talk about today, it is not us that is in, we are not the ones who are in the schools actually doing the work. It is our teachers, it is our coaches, it is our specialists. All of those people are the people who are actually doing the work. So we want to take a second to introduce our team that is actually here today. There's quite a few people, obviously, you'll see that are not here, but the ones who are here, it's really important to us that they get the acknowledgement for the work that they do. So I'm going to let Ms. Turnbow introduce all of them.
So if you work for Rutherford County Schools, will you please stand? A lot are in the back row here. Everything you hear would not be possible without, we've got some of our teachers, we've got some district staff, so you guys can have a seat. I know you didn't want to stand. But we just want, like Dr. Westerfield said, we wanted to make sure that they know that what we're talking about, we were just a little part of the things that we've been doing in our district to focus on ESL success. And I also want to say, after I've reviewed these notes, I felt like, man, I'm bragging a little bit about what we have and what we've been doing, and I don't mean to, but we are just so proud of the work that we've done, really, and it focused in on the last 2 years. These people have really faced a lot of challenges. In Rutherford County, I know you've all had a surge of growth, but we added about 2,000 English learners over the last 2 years. So that was just a big challenge, and everybody hit it head on. And not to add in, we had different platforms like TM Pulse, different standards, different assessments, a different coordinator who brought, new, fresh ideas, which is a fancy word or nice word for change, and no one really likes change. But I wanted to make sure that our teachers, our district staff get the recognition that they deserve before we get started. And Ms. Danko, who's one of our ESL specialists, when we get to talking about high quality instructional materials, she's been doing that for years in our district to get us ready. So without further ado,
these are our numbers for this last school year. As you can see, every district has a way of distributing their Title I funds. So we have 29 schools that actually qualify for Title I. We distribute that with 14 schools this past year. It's a little bit of changing for next year. We have 238 ESL teachers within our district. And some of the numbers that are up here are extraordinary because, as Ms. Turnbow said, we've grown 2,000 ESL students just in the last 2 years. Our newcomers number, 1,297 this past year. As you know, when you were in a classroom, I was an ESL teacher in Metro. When you're in a classroom and you have newcomers all the way up to T4s or waived or just completely, native speakers, It is a wide range of need. And so to say all ESL students need this, that is not correct. And so that's something we've really been working on, is understanding their language acquisition levels and how to actually meet their needs at their tier 1 level, which we'll talk about how we're doing that. We have 822 LTELs this past year, 672 that were dual served. So if you are in elementary school, you know that we have to get really creative in our elementary school scheduling to figure out how to get those in. And then in high school, that means there are some things that we have to shift things around, and we have to change up their schedules so that they get all the services that they actually need. But most importantly, that they still get their tier 1 standards and they get a chance to be a kid, because they are a kid first. So overall, we have 9,000 this past year, 9,588. That's the direct served, that's waived, and then the T1 through 4s. So we're going to talk about kind of how we've tried to meet their needs this past year, or over the last few years, kind of how we're doing that as a district. So we say every student every day. And the reason we say that is, if you have read Our Iceberg is Melting, he talks about you have to flood your message on the people that you serve. And so we serve all of these students. We serve 52,000 students. Every single one of those students is a human who deserves the best possible education that they can get, and every opportunity. That means that is on us to make sure that they have that opportunity. So we, at the start of every principals meeting, you'll hear either our chief academic officer or our director of schools. Multiple people will say, every student every day. We say that at the beginning of every curriculum lead meeting, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes what that is. We say this all the time, and the reason that is so important to us is because we truly actually want to figure out how to meet the needs of every student every single day, because that is our job. That is, if we do not do that, we are not meeting their needs, then we are letting them leave us, and they are not going to be prepared for what is out there. Also, they are somebody's kid. They are going to be an adult someday who's helping to lead this nation, and who's helping to lead our state, and who's helping to lead our schools and teach the next generation. We want those to be the best of the best that come out of Rutherford County. So that is why we focus so much on that, is because each individual student matters to us, and every single need they have matters to us. So with that, we love alliteration in education. So we have our RCS vision, which is also plastered all over the place, where we are about a collaborative culture. We want successful students. We have to empower our educators to do all of these things, and we have to be proactive about our planning. And so a lot of the things that we do, we start filtering through this. And last year, we started with realizing that we are kind of all over the place sometimes as a district with our focus. Like, we see this, so we have to react to it. We see this. We needed to focus kind of like, where are we going as a district with our vision? Where are we going with this? So our chief academic officer and our curriculum and instruction department sat down and came up, and I'm sorry it's kind of small, but I really wanted you to have this, and this will be in the PowerPoint for you. But we have 5 focus areas. So the first one you've heard a lot about today is HQIM, making sure things are aligned to our HQIM. Then you have our high-performing PLC process. We have that as our focus. Then we have measured outcomes, success for all students, so that's results-oriented. Then we have inclusivity and collaboration, that's at the district level and at the school level. And then alignment and commitments between the school and the district. So a lot of what you'll see today is filtered through these focus areas. And that's really where we got to that every student every day. So there are some expectations we have when we get together as a district or as a school or as a faculty or as an instruction department or as instructional leadership department or ESL department. What we do, we say everything should be intentional around collaboration, and then we need to focus on our subgroup data, and then high quality instructional materials. And the reason for the collaboration is we know that when people get together, the first idea is never going to be the best idea. But when you get all of us in a room together and we start shooting off of each other and giving each other ideas, all of a sudden we create this thing that actually grows into something that's going to make a difference and impact our students. So that's why collaboration is so important for us. But we have to model that at every level of the district. So we'll talk about that. Our subgroup data focus, that's just plain and simple. We were looking at our subgroup data and realized we are not meeting the needs of all of our students. So if we're going to say every student every day, our data have to reflect that. So let's talk about that collaboration piece. As you can see, what drives it is that we know that it grows instructional strategies and it grows content knowledge when teachers get together. So we had to figure out, well, what does that mean? How do we do that in our district? We have 52,000 students, 52 schools. How do you collaborate across 52 schools? That's quite possibly not going to happen if we're not intentional around it. So I started to, as I was reviewing this, I thought, did I put these in the right order? And then I realized there's really no order for this, because every single person in our district matters to our students, and every single person in our district matters to this process. So there's no one that's more important than the other. We're going to talk about each of these today, but curriculum leads we'll talk a lot about. It's actually a bit of a misnomer. We've stuck with that name because we all know that name now, but really they're subject area leads from every school. Principals, you know what those are. But one of the things that we do when it comes to intentional collaboration with principals, as Dufour says, that when you put all of those people in a room and you put your central office staff and they're all meeting together, those are the highest paid employees in your district. You better be collaborating. You better be learning from each other instead of just spitting information at them. So we've really been working on, and this is an area we're still working on, is when we get together, we want to make sure that we are collaborating K-12 or within the grade bands as well. So we do breakouts so that all the 27 elementary, now 28 elementary principals go and collaborate by themselves. But before, we give them scenarios and things to discuss. So one of the things this year, we gave them subgroup data. We talked through how do they have everybody at the table collaborating within their own buildings. So they have PLCs because that's been an expectation. Every teacher's in a high-performing PLC. But then do they have a SPED representative there? Do they have an ESL representative there? Do they have an RTI representative there? So we had to sit down and actually talk through what could we do differently. And so we let principals learn from each other because all of our schools are doing phenomenal things, but not always able to have that chance to talk to each other because everybody's so busy. So we really tried to protect that time during our principals' meetings. We also started content alignment meetings. All these names. Name them whatever you want. These are what worked for us. But content alignment meetings, that was literally just central office staff. We realized within our own departments, we weren't always talking to each other. I remember you would feel that at the school when I'm being told to do this by one department and this by another department, those two things do not go together. And so we said, we can't do that. That's not fair to our teachers or our students. So now all of our content specialists, we have two ESL representatives that work exclusively with Tier 1 teachers on how to support students in the Tier 1 classroom who are ESL, or get ESL services rather. And then same with SPED. Any students who get SPED services, this person supports K-12, our Tier 1 teachers with that, and then RTI representatives. We all get into a space together to discuss how to support our teachers, but really support can be an ugly word. What is it really? What are the action steps to actually meet the needs of our students and our teachers? So we talked through those subject by subject. So we've started those. Then we have our instructional leadership team, and that is, we have our SPED coordinator, we have Ms. Turnbow, our ESL coordinator, our chief academic officer, myself, we have our director of student services, or federal programs and student populations. And then we have, I'm missing something, student information systems. We have a group of us who get together and talk through all of the ways that we have got to meet the needs of our teachers and our students. And this can't be, again, here's one more thing for you to do because we think this sounds great. We actually have to talk it through with the people in the room and then talk it through with the people who are actually doing the work. We have monthly instruction departments, and when I say we talk all the time, we just live in each other's offices, and so people get mad when they can't call us at our desk because we're literally just talking and figuring all of this out, and then we're always in the schools because that's obviously the better place to be. But at the end of the day, central office all the way down to schools, everyone is in a PLC. And that is an expectation within our district because of how important collaboration is to our district leadership. And that kind of leadership has come from the top of our district and has been so important. Sometimes you don't have that in a district, and we are so very thankful that we do, but you can still collaborate even if it's not supported from the top, even if it's not designated from the top. You should still be finding those opportunities, so we're going to talk about that. So like I said, the curriculum leads, it's a bit of a misnomer, but one of the things that Dufour says is that in order for teachers to learn, they have to be in the same room. So we've got to create that space. So that is an expectation that every principal knows. Every single teacher in their building should be in a PLC. So we protect that time, but then we realized that when we were doing that, we didn't always model what that looked like from a district perspective. So we have a teacher from every single school. Let's pick one grade. We have a 6th grade ELA teacher from every single middle school in our district. They come together 4 times a year. We get them subs. And then we also have an RTI representative. We have a SPED representative, ESL representative, and then we have the content specialists in that area, so our middle school ELA specialists. They get together, and what we said was that they have to be intentional about collaborating with that time, but it has to be a PLC. We have to model the PLC process, because a lot of times what we'll do is we'll say you should do this, but then we don't model that, and so, do as I say, and that's not helpful. So they need to see the messiness of a PLC, and PLCs are messy. Collaboration is messy. We're not gonna all agree, but we can get to a place where we've come to what's best for students. And so we realized we had to model that from a district perspective. When you have 27 elementary schools, that is a large room of a lot of people, but it's also worth it. So that's when you can start putting those smaller groups of people together and letting them collaborate, mixing them up, and having them have that opportunity to work together. But we had to give it direction. So we had to start with that question 1, what is it we want them to know? So we started with just essential standards. We had those teachers letting them talk about what that standard actually meant. Because you and I both know that if I'm in this school, a standard might mean one thing, and if I'm in this school, a standard means something else. So if we all get together and we all agree on what we are teaching, then that's a totally different, we've created a different space for our students, where there's more equity for our students. So we've started that, and we're moving into question 3 and 4 next year, which Ms. Turnbow will talk a little bit more about. And one of the things that we asked ourselves was, what was the right work that actually led to those improved results? So this past year, we tried. We were just trying. We were like, let's try one thing this year. So we said we were going to focus on questions just 1 and 2 in our curriculum lead PLCs for our district. And we were going to say, look at data. Because what we found and what we were hearing over and over is, everybody says, data drives our instruction. But what does that mean? Like, we say these things and don't always actually figure out what they mean, or we just assume people know what they mean. And that's really hard. If you haven't been taught, you might not know. And to say, well, you can figure it out, when is a teacher going to have time to figure that out? There's already not enough time. So we had to really be intentional about creating that space, that they would have that time, and we protected that time for them. Then we also, and this is straight from Dufour, this is not my genius, but that collective responsibility for student learning. It's all of us. We are all responsible for Rutherford County students. We are all responsible for Tennessee students. It is not just me at my school, you at your school, you're responsible for those kids. It's not me in my classroom, I'm responsible for these kids. And ESL teachers, you know that better than anybody because you're working with everybody's kids. So you know that we've got to have those lines of communication, we've got to have that collaboration open in order to make sure that we are meeting those needs for every student. So again, we go into that every student, every day. I told you I'm going to flood you with that message because it's so important to us. And one of the things we realized as we were looking at our data is that we are not always getting that higher level of learning from all of our students. So we're going to look at a little bit of data here in a minute, just so you can see kind of what we did with our curriculum leads and with our principals to show, like, okay, where can you see some areas that we need to grow? One of the things I wanted to stop, though, before I keep talking at you, is I told you about these areas back here. I'll go all the way back. These focus areas. Ours are stated. As of a year and a half ago, we've started actually stating them. They are we outward facing. We publicly share those with principals, with teachers, with the board, everyone. In some districts, that's not publicly stated. So just kind of with your table for a second, just kind of talk about what are the things that you feel like in your district or smaller even in your school, what are those focus areas for you in your school or your district, stated or unstated? What do you think those are? I'll give you just a minute. What I loved is when I looked around, when I first said that, I heard someone go, huh. And then someone else was like, oh. Because if you really sit down and think about it, we do have focus areas in every district. We might not like them, and they may not be stated, but they are there. So it's something to be aware of. And if you don't know what they are, I would really encourage you to have that conversation with whether your principal or someone at your district office that you know. Say, hey, what are our areas? What do we focus on as a district? Because that is something that's a real conversation to have. Because if you don't have a focus, if you're not focusing on specific things, you can't focus on everything. And you can't just say, be reacting to everything. If we're proactive, then we can actually meet the needs of our students as best we can. So here's what I wanted to show you, some data. These are the things that we put in front of principals and that we put in front of our curriculum leads. So if you look, we broke it down into every subgroup that we could have, that was reported to us. And if you will look at some of the highlighted areas, these are just proficiencies, I didn't put growth on here. 22, 23, and 24. So it's imperative, because y'all are in the room, for me to highlight the EL transitional 1 through 4. This is, I believe, third or fourth grade ELA. That's insane. And that is a testament to our ESL department and our teachers. It's phenomenal. But then at the same time, we said, okay, tell us what else you see in this data. And I see some areas that I'm like, oh, those are kids. That's not a number I like. And that's okay to say that and to acknowledge that. We have to be honest about our results. We can't make changes, we can't improve things for our students if we're not honest about what our current reality is. So then we went, let's look at 5th and 6th grade science. When we were meeting with the curriculum leads, we talked about what those breakdowns were. And what I think is really important, and this is what some of our schools have started doing, is breaking it down to a number of kids. Because percentages can make you feel good. Like 75%, that's amazing. Or 44%, that's above the state, that's so great. Those are kids, those are actual human beings. And so putting it into actual numbers really does impact, and I would encourage you in your PLCs to do that. Put it in actual numbers of the kids that you're serving. Then if you look at, this is actually, I think, 7th grade social studies. And how our curriculum leads did this one was showing where they all fell. I'm guessing you start seeing some trends, because we did, which is what led us to some of the work we've been doing. It also led us with our principals to do a book study. If you haven't read the book, Yes We Can, that's my plug for that. We did that with our principals to start talking about how to meet the needs of all of our learners. So then we sat down with principals and we said, okay, heat maps. And then we sat down with coaches, our instructional coaches, and gave them heat maps. And I'm thinking, look, I'm a reward school. This is phenomenal. If I took that and said 3.1, that's it, I'm a reward school, this is amazing, everybody, we did amazing. But when I start diving into ELPA, students with disabilities, I start seeing some areas that we have opportunity to grow still. And there are some things that we're not meeting the needs of. So this is where we started kind of diving into, okay, first you have to acknowledge the data, then what do you do with it? And that's where we started getting to that collaborative piece last fall. So we also moved into HQIM, and I'm gonna let Ms. Turnbow talk through a lot of the work that we did with that.
And you can see HQIM was our third expectation after collaboration, after that subgroup data focus. And I don't think that teachers can't make up their own lessons. I think teachers are very capable of creating great lessons every day. But that takes away time from other things they can be doing, like looking at some of the student data, individualizing those lessons for every student every day, building relationships with their students, collaborating with gen ed teachers if they're an ESL teacher, or just being able to go home on time. So we wanted to make sure in our ESL department that we were providing lessons that they can use and not have to build things from scratch. Because I don't know what it's like for you, but when I was an ESL teacher, most days I was making it up as I went because my district didn't provide anything for me at that time. So here's some of the high quality instructional materials that we are using in our ESL department. We are using Orton Gillingham's Morphology for all of our middle school. We are using, and these are some pictures of National Geographic Lift. Now, there's lots of great programs out there. This has just happened to be what we are using. But we adopted their newcomer curriculum for grades 1 through 12. And then high school. Our high school English learners typically need more support than our elementary because of the way high school is designed. And if they're coming as a newcomer in high school, everybody else has already gone through learning how to read, all the sounds, all the things, and they're expected to be performing in Algebra 1, English 1, biology, things like that. So we purchased a curriculum from National Geographic Lift for our high school just because of the level of support high school English learners need. And then for K-8, our curriculum, we base it off the 3 L's framework. I won't go into detail about that, but sometime if you want to Google it, we didn't come up with it, but we adopted that for our lesson frameworks. And we as a district have provided grade level text. We're not giving 5th graders 1st grade text. Grade level text that we provide to them, and on our website we've built out unit guides and text guides so that our teachers don't have to go very far to find everything they need for those 3L lessons. And I mentioned Ms. Danko, I saw her come back in. She is directly responsible for our district doing that and has put a ton of work behind that. But we have seen substantial growth with our English learners since that has been implemented. And I'm going to show you some of our ELPA and WIDA data in just a moment, but I think it directly ties to our improvements there. So where are we now? Some of our district structures, our collaboration, some of the positive outcomes. When you have those district structures and combined with that collaboration, we're all swimming in the same direction for positive outcomes. And if we're all working in the same direction, it can only improve student learning. So we wanted to show you some examples of district structures that we have, and some of these have already been explained, but just some things that are going on in our district. Content alignment meetings. Before, when like all the math people sat down, there was not an ESL representative there. There was not a SPED representative there or RTI, but now there is. Anytime our district is coming together with content-specific meetings, there is somebody from ESL, special education, or RTI there. It may be from the district level, or it may be from the teacher level, as in our curriculum lead meetings. Again, that's the group of teachers coming together, doing that PLC process. And then we hope that the ripple effect is they go back to their schools and do that same process. But again, we do not have those meetings anymore without ESL, SPED, and RTI involved. It's just, that's a basic necessity, really. Scheduling meetings from our district office. When we go out, like when our elementary coordinator goes out, I go with her most of the time, especially with our schools that have high ESL populations, just so that we make sure every student, including our English learners, are getting their needs met and that conversation is had about them. Principal meetings she's talked in depth about. We shifted around, and this may be something you need to do in your district. A lot of times you can't create the positions you need. You got to do some shifting. So we shifted around 2 people to become direct supports for our Tier 1 Gen Ed teachers about ESL. Because if you think about it, our ESL students, they're with our ESL teachers 1 hour a day, and with Gen Ed teachers the other 6. You know, so really those teachers need a lot of support, and we were able to reallocate, move around, and place a support person for elementary schools and a support person for secondary schools. And those have been game changers as well, because our ESL department, we have a great staff, but we can't do everything. And we were doing really well on the ESL side, but having our Gen Ed teachers drown and feel clueless. But now I feel like I can say that our gen ed teachers feel much more confident because the PD and the support that we've been pumping out to gen ed teachers the last 2 years, and those two people are directly responsible for that. We do have district coaches. We need some more, but we do have great district coaches that help support our ESL teachers. Ignite, that is a new teacher event. You probably all have a new teacher event in your district, but does ESL get time? There's specific time within that event to make sure our new teachers at least have a foundational knowledge about how to work with English learners, so that when they walk into their classroom and have newcomers, or any level really of English learners, that they know what to do. School collaboration plans always include ESL. ESL lead meetings with our 52 schools. I've been meeting monthly, and that's the new thing, with our ESL leads, just to give them more support. With all the things that are constantly changing in our world, that it was important for us to sit down, and we sit down virtually, but sit down and talk once a month about what's going on in our department. Our department structure, I told you how that's changed. We have coaches, we have specialists that support our ESL department, and then we have those 2 new specialists that support gen ed. We have increased translators within our school. That's been tough because it is, teacher ratio, we've got to have that 1 to 35. We get checked on that, we get monitored on that. But there is no monitoring of the communication type of support that we provide to our families. And we have been trying very hard to put more translators in our schools. We're still working in that area, to be honest, and it's a hard one. More family nights. I'm going to show you some pictures of our ESL college night in a moment, but we've had more family nights increase across the district to get our families involved. You guys had one not too long ago that was very successful. And then just more collaborative structures within our schools. PLCs are making sure, even if the ESL teacher can't get to the first grade PLC every single week, there's at least another ESL teacher assigned to that first grade PLC. Maybe that's their liaison, their go-to for questions, because we have the same students talking about the same kids. Relationships, teamwork, and having the right people at the table has been an outcome of all this collaboration. Our school board, our county commission, our district leadership, our instructional coaches, our ESL district department have all worked together. I cannot say enough good things about these groups. I'll give you an example. Our school board has approved 65 new ESL teachers in the last 2 years. That's more teachers than a school. And our county commission has funded it. And our director of schools has had to go and ask for it every time, and he has. So these people have been at the right table at the right time for our ESL department to be successful. If they had not approved all that funding, I can't even tell you how many millions of dollars 65 teachers is to add to a school district. But they did it. And our chief academic officer, our CFO, our federal programs coordinator, everyone has come together to support this surge in English learners. And anytime we face a hurdle, it's never a no. It's what's another way? What's another way we can do it? Where can we find more funding? Where can we shift people? It is never a no in our district. It's just how can we do it differently? And I cannot tell you, as a coordinator who has very little power, I'll tell you, that the people that do have the power have been so supportive of our English learners. And like I said, just getting the right people at the right table brings about results. So look around your district, who are the people that can make an impact that you can go to and express, and that will listen to you as far as what are the needs of your students. And speaking of having the right people at the right table, we've been doing more co-teaching, and I know the state has talked a lot about co-teaching as a model. So we wanted to show you, if you can click on that, I'm hoping the video works. It may or may not. It was an addition. No, okay, it's okay. But we have been pulling together more gen ed teachers to do co-teaching so that we pull in that specialist from ESL and that specialist with the content, and that they're together in the same room to support those students. Here's some pictures from our ESL College Night. We actually did this twice last year and had 200 people come in the fall and 200 different people come in the spring. And I cannot take credit for this. This is one of our high school principals' ideas, and you know those high school principals are tough to crack. He came up with the idea himself, and we just ran with it and made sure it happened. And it woke up our district to the fact that English learners could go to college. It was really an eye-opening event to have so many people come out and want to know more about college for their English learners. And even some of our parents really found some opportunities there as well. We pulled, you said that?
I was just gonna say, I know that sounds like a silly statement to make, but you'd be surprised at how many people limit our students who get ESL services. Y'all wouldn't be surprised by that, but this has been such a powerful tool. I was gonna ask you if you could tell them what happened there, like what they organized and what you had there.
So we pulled together just our local schools, which is for Rutherford County, MTSU, Motlow, and TCAT, and then we had a representative from FAFSA to talk about the financial side. But we had, this is actually the president of TCAT right there. He came both nights in the fall and the spring and talked about their programs, and even our parents' eyes were like wide open to the opportunities that TCAT provides. But I mean, just standing room only, and you can see that there's two people. You have the Motlow representative here, and this is one of our translators. We had Spanish rooms and we had Arabic speaking rooms, and they rotated every 30 minutes. They got to go to a new area and they got to choose, but we had our translators present that night. So. But just some of the outcomes that don't go with numbers, but you know, numbers aren't always the most important outcome, but just a better awareness over the last 2 years of our English learners. Our teachers are much more confident in serving our English learners. We get a whole lot less of that, they're not supposed to be in here. I think they're supposed to be with you. You know, if you're an ESL teacher, you know what I'm talking about. They weren't supposed to be in my class, they're supposed to be with you. We don't get that as much because we are hopefully equipping our people to be able to serve English learners. So many relationships have been built. We've reduced silos as far as like the ESL department's working over here and doing their thing, the SPED department's over here doing their thing. No, a lot of the things that Dr. Westerfield talked to you about, these meetings and collaborations that we've been having, we are all on the same team now, and that has been a huge outcome. Our college night is just an example of one. Being district level 5 data with so many English learners in that data is, I think, you know, a huge success. School level ESL parent classes, we've had those all over our district, and parents participating and taking that home with them, so that's been great. And then I'll show you some specific numbers. You know, outcomes are numbers too. But so far as exits, I know we've got a year here where we've changed assessments and everybody had some more exits, but I wanted to point out, if you got into TIDE, you saw that you could see state averages. I'm super proud to say that we beat the state average in everything except kindergarten and TIDE. With that, our middle school has experienced triple the amount of exits that they have in the past, and you know that's a lot of where our long-term English learners kind of settle in. We're not going to let them do that. We're going to keep moving forward with our instruction for middle school. But even after 1 year here with WIDA, where we're comparing apples to apples, we had a big increase of students starting to show proficiency in the English language. Now, exits are not everything, because some students are not ready to exit. You know, it takes 5 to 7 years to learn a language. But we are proud that like I said, if you've been in TIDE, you see that red, yellow, green bar. If we can see that the red was less, yellow was more, green was more. So we know that we're trending in the right direction when it comes to English language proficiency. And then just some TVOS growth. If you see grades 3 through 5, level 5 in that grade band, level 5 in the 6 through 8 grade band, level 5 in the 9 through 12 grade band. So that's what's most important to me. Proficiencies and achievement levels, success rate, that's all going to come if we focus on the growth of our student, every day. And then a final last focus, because we believe in it so much, is the PLC process. And that's been around for so long that we've kind of it's just been downplayed a little bit. So we have done a refocus in our district on the PLC process. And last year, we focused on question 1 and 2. That was what we were constantly pumping out. This year, we're going to be focusing on question 3 and question 4. And I feel like as an ESL department, we're going to have a lot of good opportunities to help our district grow in the ways that we can respond to question 3 and question 4. So what about your district? I want you to think about where you are. And we're all in different roles. We're all in different places. Like I told you, I may be at the district office, but I don't make a lot of big decisions. So my sphere of influence, I have to lean on others to make some really big things happen. And not everyone is willing and ready to jump on board. Like my director of schools is amazing. My chief academic officer is amazing. My CFO is amazing. Like they all love English learners and truly believe every student every day. Like that's not just something they say that sounds good. That is the way they live, that's their mentality. So who in your district is willing and ready to jump on board to support English learners? Okay, I want you to think about that. I want you to think about your sphere of influence. Who can be a multiplier for you? And then when you start going through this, make sure that you stay results oriented. It is very easy to make excuses, especially when it comes to a student who doesn't speak the language. Very easy to make excuses. Don't let it happen. Be results oriented. It's very easy to look at our district and say, well, you have a staff. It's just me at the district level. That's where I'm telling you, find your people. And there are people who are willing and ready to jump on board. And then the ones that are not willing and ready to jump on board, they're going to watch y'all do this work, and they're going to be ready next year to jump on board because people are going to be jealous of all the success and the excitement that is going to be around your program. So find the right people, use your sphere of influence, continue to be results-oriented, not taking any excuses at all for these students to not be reached. Anchor in that PLC process. We were at a PLC conference about 6 weeks ago, and they talked about how a PLC is not just an idea or a theory anymore. That process is now been proven to have student results. Book studies has been a really great PD for us lately because it's voluntary. And so maybe find some book studies that specifically talk about English learners and get 10 people that want to read it with you. And guess what? The book studies we did last year, those 10 people are now going out and doing it with 10 other people, and it's just multiplying. CTE is also an area for high school people and maybe even some middle school where there are some CTE teachers that realize the need to learn English, to be successful, to find a job, and that our students, that though they may be sitting in classes right now a little lost, that in 10 years from now, they're going to be fully bilingual and an amazing employee. So look in CTE. I think you'll find some people that want to get on board with you. So just a moment before we close it out, I want you to turn and talk at your table about what you can do. What about your district? What is something you've heard today? Or maybe I didn't even say it, but it sparked an idea in your mind. Something in your area that you can take back today and be ready to start when we go back in August. Just a moment, talk at your table. Before we take questions, we would just love to hear some of the things that you're thinking about taking back. Anybody, brave souls, want to share some ideas you're thinking about?
I do love the book study idea, so I am curious. Yes, we can. And then was there another book?
I didn't mention, we did one about academic conversations for English learners.
That was our elementary one. And then Mr. Rainey helped lead a high school one on long-term success of multilingual learners. Is that what it was called? We did that one as well.
Mr. Rainey, would you tell us more about that?
We realized with our, specifically looking at exits and like percentages of LTLs that were beating growth, it was something that needed to be done with middle schools and high schools, like Ms. Turnbow said. And this was actually from our instructional coaches at the district, like Ms. Turnbow mentioned some of those positions, they brought that up and they started that. Ms. Crutchfield, I believe, started that. And they did a great job. We did a book study, and it was cool because we had content teachers and ESL teachers all through middle school and high school on the same call. And so a lot of the discussions that were had were more like surprises and were not planned from the questions she had. It was just because she created a space for us to collaborate. And so like middle school content teachers were asking me questions, and I was, as a high school ESL teacher, and I was asking middle school ESL teachers questions, and it was great.
So there was another question over here. The person didn't want to actually ask the question, but it's, I think, also a comment on what they were discussing. They were really interested in the newcomer curriculum. That was something that they wanted to take back to their district.
Okay.
And so would like to know more specifics about what did you use for the newcomer curriculum, and what guidance would you give about implementing a newcomer curriculum?
So we have started using National Geographic's LIFT. There are 6 levels to that, and there is a welcome, intro, and that's what we've done as newcomer, just to have some more structure there. Newcomers are usually pretty easy to teach because you're starting, you can go anywhere really. But it really having curriculum actually gave us something to build on, gave us some thematic lessons, just things were tied together with a bow that we could really see the growth, and it also comes with some assessments so that you can try to measure some language growth rather than just making guesses. But that's the one we've chosen. I'm sure there are others out there, but National Geographic LIFT.
Well, and it was age appropriate.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of what we run into, is it needed to be, if a high schooler or newcomer is not, it shouldn't be given a...
That's part of it. It was very engaging. Like the pictures, the topics for ages were appropriate, so.
And that was my follow-up question. I'm so glad you brought up the developmental issue. What age ranges do you use LIFT with? Is it kindergarten through 12th grade, or is it more the third grade on?
We think that, actually, we don't use it with kindergarten because a lot of them are all on the same level. It was really first grade. So we use it 1st through 12th, but it's not the same. It's not the same order for 1st grade and 12th grade. They have it divided by age groups. So if you get on their website, you can see. Yeah, so a 1st grader newcomer is not doing the same lesson as a 6th grade newcomer, but it is the same curriculum. Yeah, and then we try very, very hard to only keep our newcomers in a newcomer class that first year. I mean, we are really focused on moving forward, and sometimes we have some pushback from teachers that say, well, they're not ready for the next level. They're not ready for what we would call ELD, English Language Development courses. But we really believe it should be that 1 year, build them up, and then they need to move on. If not, their grade level peers keep moving on, and they keep moving slow behind them. So that's our ultimate goal. And of course, we don't live in a perfect world. We don't always get them there, and sometimes it takes longer than others. But we really want them with grade level instruction in our ELD classes, and then we can scaffold for them. We can individualize those lessons. So we keep them in a newcomer type class just for that first year. No, that wasn't the question, but throw it in there. Was there anything else anybody wanted to add about this before we actually switch to the questions section?
Mine's not a question, but I did want to point out something that I think Rutherford County did that was very outside of the box, because I had the privilege with this person right next to me. She'd be like, oh my goodness, she gave her the mic. To do the adult English language classes for the parents at the school sites. That was incredible because for family engagement, we were actually not only teaching English, but they were able to understand how our school system works, and they felt comfortable asking us very interesting questions. And I think that had a lot to do with some of the centered success we saw around them, because we got to know the parents and the kids, and we saw them just excel as well. Because it was more trusted. And that's a very vulnerable thing when you're teaching somebody a language. And so I just wanted to throw that out there, that I know you kind of mentioned that, but I was like, that was such a cool thing. So thanks for that opportunity.
Could you elaborate a little bit on the logistics of doing something like that for a district that is smaller than Rutherford?
I was going to say, you want to take over on that? Because you were kind of the person or point of contact that we worked with.
We got a grant, and we were able to do 14 sites. And I was able to pay our ESL teachers to stay after school. And I let the ESL teachers pick if they wanted to meet once a week or twice a week. I spent as much of the grant as I could to give them as many hours with those families as possible. For most of the schools, some of them got started in December, but most of them ran January to May, once or twice a week. But like she said, the surprise outcomes was that they got to be inside their student school where they may have not been as comfortable before. I also think we're doing a better job with providing translators on nights that our parents are coming into the schools. You know, don't forget about that. When you have an open house, it is so helpful to those families when they see somebody that speaks their language, that it at least can say, here's the way to your child's classroom, you know. So I love the part about the families were able to learn more about our system, you know, and then their kids will be more successful. And my biggest thing for the adult classes was they can go home and practice English with their children, you know, and just be learning together. I love to see families learning together.
For districts who don't have translators on call to do things like that, how would you recommend?
Well, I'm hoping to fulfill our requirements that they do have at least district level translators.
Right.
You may not have translators within every school, which was something that I've been advocating for, and we've gotten a little at a time. Because it is an expense. But is there anyone who doesn't have a district level translator? I mean,
or is there anyone here in a smaller district who could share perhaps how they utilize translation services, parent support services? Any smaller district representatives here?
I'm at a small district, and I translate myself for our Spanish-speaking families on those nights. But we also use Propio, which I know some have mentioned, and it's an on-demand translating service, and it's really good and quick and has all the languages that we need.
That's what Miss Elizabeth was about to say. We also use Propio. That works really well for parent-teacher conferences. You could Google Propio, Propio. Again, there's other language services out there too. This just happens to be the one we use, but you can call the number, put it on speakerphone, connect to a translator within 30 seconds, and have the translator on speakerphone, the parent here, the teacher here, and translate in the moment. And those should be paid for by GP funds, general purpose funds. I know wasn't here for the state part that might have talked about funding, but that translation is a basic service that should be provided by your district. You may need to find your person that knows school law and finance, because that Propio service is something that is paid for by our general purpose funds. Every district, I mean, with the amount of English learners that are in the state of Tennessee, I would recommend that every district have a language line like that, because we have a lot of Spanish and Arabic translators, but we have almost 100 languages in our district. So we can't translate for every one of them. So when we don't have it represented within a person in our district, we also lean on Propio. We also lean on Propio on big nights like parent-teacher conference nights.
I was just wondering if there was a curriculum that you followed for educating the parents in English.
We didn't have enough money to buy a curriculum for that too, but we actually had a person in our district who's been doing parent classes for years and years and has developed her own. And so she graciously shared that with everybody, but we did have to rely on our friend Google for those parent classes, because we used the funds to pay our teachers to stay and use their expertise to build the lessons. Felt like paying our teachers was the most important thing.
To piggyback on that, I think there's some really excellent free resources from the Minnesota Literacy Council that I've used to teach adult classes before.
I think one of the biggest things that we wanted to reiterate, we know that we're a huge district and we have leadership that is highly supportive of the work that we do. That is not everywhere, and we are incredibly grateful for that. But going back to what she said about that sphere of influence, finding those areas, those people who can multiply whatever work needs to be done, it might not be someone who has the title. It might be someone who's just a person who can influence others. Become friends with that person. Help them to grow your programs and to grow the needs that y'all have so that those needs can be met for your students. Because at the end of the day, if your students' needs aren't met, it doesn't matter any of the other things that we do. We've got to meet our students' needs. So finding the places that you can have an influence and that you can help to scale out what you're doing, because the things that you're doing in your schools is so phenomenal, whether it's a small school, small district, or large school in a large district. They can be scaled out anywhere. It's just find the people who will help you do that.
Yeah, and as an ESL teacher, maybe you want to just find a grade level that says, hey, we're committing to making sure we individualize these lessons for our English learners, or we just want to know more. You know, find one grade level PLC that you can start partnering with. And I guarantee you, the following year, you're going to have more grade level PLCs asking, hey, can we have that same work too? Or, hey, can we have that you created? Or can you come do that PD you did with us? I mean, I'm just telling you from experience, start where you can. Anybody that's willing to do this work with you, and it is going to multiply. The success will be there. People love to feel successful. Success is a huge motivating factor. And I'm telling you, once you start running with this, people are going to want to jump on.
I have a follow-up question. You mentioned you wrote a grant.
I didn't write a grant necessarily. The state had a Title III immigrant grant, just kind of applied for. Okay. And it's one of those things, it was one, you didn't have to do a lot of writing for it. If we applied for it, we got it, kind of thing. So they offered that to probably to ESL coordinators.
Okay, Title III immigrant grant.
Yes.
Everybody hear that? Okay. So Tennessee Department of Ed on the back row.
It might be a Hannah Gribble question.
Is that Tennessee immigrant grant available? Joanne?
Dr. Hannah Gribble is the contact. So hannah.gribble@tn.gov and Miss Vanessa Waters. Vanessa, regular spelling, .waters, like many water, waters @tn.gov. Those would be the contacts.
Thanks. Time for questions still.
If you teach at a school and you want to do a book study, you should. So when I talk about veteran teachers, and I started in Rutherford County in 2000, there were 13 ESL teachers, or maybe 16, I can't remember now. But we had very few. And if we wanted to influence anyone, meaning us being the ESL teachers, we had to do the groundwork ourselves. So when we say district level, that's great. And it's taken Rutherford County. I was telling somebody else, it's really improved a lot in the last few years, but Rutherford County has never been bad. We've always had good support from central office. But if you are at a school where you don't feel like you have that support, you can find your own group of teachers, potentially, hopefully, maybe someone on leadership, and do your own book study. And there are some amazing books out there that you could use. Diane Steiner-Fenner has a great one. The one that Andrew was talking about was from Tan and Beth Skelton. Yeah, both really good book studies. If you want to influence, you have to start small sometimes. If you don't feel like you have that influence, don't feel like, because you don't get it from the district, that you don't have power. I said it earlier when I presented, your voice matters, and it matters because Teachers listen to you because you're in the building with them. And your administrators are going to listen to you especially if you're a good teacher and you have good data to back up what you're saying. Like they said, outcomes is important. So I don't know, I could go on, but don't always rely on the district people. You can have power from yourself. That's my spiel for the day.
Thank you for that.
I would like a list of all those examples for book studies.
Email that list to one of us, and we could send it out to the collaborative.
Okay, I will happily do that. Yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
Any other questions? Hey, thank you all so much for letting us be here, but thank you also for the work that you do. It really does matter, and when all of our districts do better for our students, all of our students do better, so thank you for that. We really appreciate y'all.